Luigi? Hello? Hello? Okay, he's not in the living room playing on his Wii U. Okay, he's not in the kitchen drinking any mango juice. Hello? Okay, so he's not in his bathroom. Is that a hot tub? This place has everything! He's not in his garage secretly playing his Sega Genesis. He's not secretly petting his poodles. He isn't secretly trying to ruin his diet. He isn't secretly trying to be secret, so why am I assuming he's being secret? Maybe he's in his room. Hello? Oh, there you are. Been looking all over for you. Why haven't you been answering? I mean, come on, at the very least, you could at least Oh. So lifelike. Then where is he? Okay, so he's not home. That either means that he's been kidnapped or he's secretly on the run from somebody trying to kill him. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Or he could just not be home.
What? What was...
Relax. I'm just a narrator.
Oh, that would explain it. Wait, didn't I kill you?
Well, you didn't really kill the last one. You just scared him so bad that I had to replace him.
Okay, fine. That also makes sense.
See, I am trustworthy.
Oh, shut up!
Okay, man, calm down. Why are you even here, anyway?
Well, I've been trying to find Luigi all day. I can't find him in his own home, so I don't know where he is.
Oh, he said he was getting stressed out from doing videos, so he went on vacation. I believe he went to Hawaii.
Wait, what?
Very nice here. I think I'm going to have a very good vacation. Let's see my brother try to stop me from having a vacation now. With all of the beaches, the great food, the amazing culture of these islands, what should I do first? Hello, it's me, Luigi.
You hired a narrator to watch your house.
Oh, it's you. Thought you were a fan.
Well, technically I am a fan, but...
You know what I mean. What are you doing right now?
Well, I came by to see if you wanted to play some games or something, but you weren't home. So, I kind of just let myself in. Just gonna play some games around here, watch the house for you.
Just make sure you don't break anything. I have a lot of things that I like in there.
Oh yeah, don't worry about that. I'll make sure everything's in one piece by the time you get back. I'll look over the house, play some video games, make sure the narrator doesn't get himself into trouble. I mean, I still don't understand why you hired him to look over your house when you could have hired me. I mean, at least I have arms.
Hey, I have arms.
Did I ask for you to talk? Anyway, what do you plan on doing over there in Maui? Think about doing the Luigi's Choice? You might as well get it done. That way you can get your vacation started earlier.
I don't know. I only brought my 3DS. It's not like I can do anything off that.
Well, they don't have a lot of consoles out there, that's right. But I know they have some computers and the Wi-Fi's okay. How about you just play a PC game?
I suppose I could go for something slightly difficult. Why?
Good question. Well, something you're familiar with. I mean, there's a couple Metroidvania titles on the Steam shop, so you might as well look for one of those. Oh, I just heard of one the other day. It's been out for a couple of months. I haven't seen much of it, but how about Ori and the Blind Forest?
I've never heard of Ori and the Blind Forest.
Yeah, I don't know too much about Ori and the Blind Forest myself, but I heard it looks really good. It's a very nice throwback to old Metroidvania titles. Forget who developed it, but Microsoft published it.
A Microsoft title? Well, that right there is throwing off all kinds of red flags.
Look, and I know since you wanted to take a break from Nintendo and, wanted to go independent and make videos, you and Microsoft haven't been the best of friends, and I get that with, them trying to buy you out every day like they bought out Rareware and Mojang, and those annoying phone calls and emails they keep sending you, and,
Don't forget about the Kinect. That tried to kill him.
Oh yeah, the evil Kinect that tried to kill him. Yeah, thank you for reminding me. Well, besides all that, though, do you really think that their name alone is going to keep the game from being good? I mean, it's only like less than $20 on Steam. You might as well grab it.
There's no payment involved other than buying the game, right?
It's got no other purchases other than what you have to pay for it, from what I've heard. Besides, I have also heard that they haven't even remotely touched the game.
Fine. There's a computer here and I might as well look it up. I'll let you know what I think of it, okay?
Alright, sounds good. Can't wait to see the video. Later, Luigi.
Okay. Take care.
Come on, man. Let's play the Ocarina of Time.
No.
Why not? It's a classic. How could you not play it?
Because I've already beaten it 3 times before. I don't need to play it again.
Well, I'll bet that you haven't beat it in less than 3 hours.
What? No, that's not even remotely possible.
I bet you're just saying that because you can't do it.
Are you challenging me?
Heck yeah, I'm challenging you.
Oh, you are on.
Ori and the Blind Forest, huh? Never heard of that. Let's go check it out.
Ori and the Blind Forest has been referred to as a nice throwback to the Metroidvania genre, as well as being a very nice addition to it. The game was developed by a company named Moon Studios, and contrary to other companies, Moon Studios didn't keep all of their employees in one building. Rather, their designers and programmers were found all over the world, whether it was in Australia, or in Japan, or even in the United States. The reason for this is during development of Ori and the Blind Forest, they wanted to make everything in the game stand out, from its art style to its gameplay, to even the little things, such as what's in the background. Combine that with one of the lead team members being Thomas Mahler, one of the artists who used to work for Blizzard, and Ori and the Blind Forest was looking in the right direction. So looking at the artwork, Ori and the Blind Forest is looking really good. But what about the gameplay? Well, Moon Studios stated that they were inspired by current and classic 2D games, most notably the Metroid and Rayman series, with a little bit of Castlevania thrown in there. In terms of one of the key elements of Ori and the Blind Forest being its story, they were inspired by coming-of-age stories, such as The Lion King and The Iron Giant. The game was also heavily inspired by the work of Hayao Miyazaki, particularly from his film Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, to the point where they even named one of the levels the Valley of the Wind. The game's existence was revealed at E3 2014. Shortly afterward, Moon Studios announced the release date for Ori and the Blind Forest for the Xbox One and the PC. The game would come out on March 11, 2015, with an Xbox 360 version still pending. Upon its release, and as of right now, Ori and the Blind Forest has received critical acclaim from everywhere, the most notable praise being towards its story and just how nice of a throwback it is to the Metroidvania genre. Now, considering that this game's supposed to be a throwback to early Metroidvania titles, I imagine there's going to be a bit of difficulty in this. And that's fine. I've played the best of the genre and the worst of the genre, so I think I can handle it. As usual in all my videos, I will be judging Ori and the Blind Forest based on its story, its gameplay, and its soundtrack. And judging from the screenshots and what I've heard so far, I can imagine this game's going to have all 3, so I should be here quite a while. And finally, even though this game has been out for a few months now, there will be spoilers in this video. So if you had plans to buy and play the game for yourself, you might want to leave now. And now, without further ado, let's start playing Ori and the Blind Forest. If I'm lucky, I can get this done in a few hours and still go down to the beach.
Looking at this game makes me feel like I'm in a museum.
Now, the reason why I say that is because the game itself looks fantastic. Now, when you see the screenshots for this game, it already looks impressive enough. But it's not until you play it for yourself, whether it's on an Xbox One or a PC, and realize that's what the game actually looks like.
Those screenshots weren't exaggerating. The game looks that good. And one thing that stands out to me so far is that they did their very best to make this game have its own atmosphere and trying to make it look as beautiful as possible. And, to put it bluntly, I think they went beyond what was required. Now, before I go on to the three main portions of this review, I want to talk a little bit about how this game looks, cause I feel as if I need to say it. When it comes to video games, I like to think that a game's graphics definitely help the game seem more appealing, but it's a very minor thing. A lot of games don't even have good graphics, and yet they are regarded as the greatest of all time, or a very fun game, or something along those lines. So when I see Ori and the Blind Forest and I think to myself, this is not a game, it's art, which is a term that I don't throw around lightly, then I think you made a fantastic game, at least visibly speaking. Seriously, if you look into the background, you can see things moving. Not to mention, no background screen is exactly the same as you go to another area. Now that is saying something. That is putting time and effort into your game rather than copy and pasting, and I've got to commend that. And another thing I like about this game is the variety of colors. It helps certain objects stand out, or blend together depending on the circumstances. It mainly helps the areas stand out amongst the others. Areas with the lighter color schemes seem more serene or peaceful, and whereas areas with darker color schemes seem more unnerving or creepy. All in all, looking at this game, it looks fantastic. Like I said before, it should belong inside the museum. Just for the looks alone though. I haven't gotten to the main portion, so I should probably do that now before I get too carried away and start giving this game 9 or 10 just because of how good it looks. Don't forget, I'm not the kind of character who judges a game based on how it looks. So, let's get started with the game's story. The game begins with a great storm rushing through the forest. The tree you see in the center loses what I would believe is a spirit leaf. I don't know how to properly describe it, but it gets blown away in the wind. Amongst the storm, there is a Sasquatch-like creature named Naru, who happens to see the leaf fly by her and decides to go investigate. Upon finding this light, she discovers that it is a small spirit creature, whom we know as Ori, and then proceeds to adopt the creature as her own. Wow, look at this, we're not even a minute into the game and there's already a nice mother-son relationship. What could possibly go wrong? You take control of Ori afterwards, briefly learn about the controls, and delve deeper into the relationship with Naru. What it boils down to is that Naru and Ori eat fruit from trees, and in order to do that, they have to work together to get to other ones beyond where they live. As they start building a bridge to get to the orchard, you get a glimpse of what their relationship really means to each other. They're not even remotely related, but they depend on one another, and they care for one another. And it's actually quite sweet. Very cliché, but sweet. As they start to feast on the berries that they eventually required, there is a bright light in the distance of the forest. Ori naturally gets curious of this and decides to go investigate. He catches a quick glimpse of the tree from earlier giving off this bright light before Naru sends him inside. As it turns out, that light was actually used to guide Ori back to the tree that he got separated from, as explained by the narrator, which I will get into later. As it turns out, that action has dire consequences, and as time goes on, everything starts to wither and die, and Naru slowly starts to lose her strength. They're not going to do this, right? It's only 5 minutes into the game. Naru gets up and realizes that they're down to their last fruit, so instead of eating it, she goes out to find more. As hard as she tries, however, there's no fruit to be found anywhere due to the forest dying, until eventually she finds a group of them near the top of a tree. She tries to grab them, but the branch snaps under her weight and she crashes to the ground. After realizing she has no strength left, she goes back into the cave and gives Ori the last berry. Oh boy. I'd recommend getting some tissues ready. A lot of them. Just in case. Instead of eating the berry, however, Ori goes back outside to the tree that Naru fell off of and gets to the very top, and shakes off a bunch of berries from the branch. Ori grabs a bunch of the berries and starts to run back to the cave, while visions of Naru show up in the background? No, wait, they can't do this. It's still early in the game. We haven't even gotten to the main portion yet. Why? No, I'm not crying. I just stubbed my toe, that's all. It hurts really bad. Don't look at me. And honestly, I have to wonder if spoiling that was the right idea. I mean, it is the biggest spoiler in the entire game. On one hand, it's only 8 minutes into it and most people would like to see it for themselves. Yet on the other hand, I did say there was going to be spoilers in this video, and not to mention, the game's trailer spoilers it. So, I guess it's not that big of a spoiler for everybody who saw the trailer. And I guess you wouldn't really understand the relationship between Ori and Naru unless you played the game yourself. You wouldn't get too much information from the trailer alone other than she dies in the beginning. So I guess this is just Moon Studios trying to connect with the player, and in a way I think it really worked. It's very heartbreaking and definitely makes you want to keep going, sort of. I mean, I'm saying that while I'm drying my tears, so I can't exactly see my screen really well right now. Now, continuing where I left off, Ori is once again an orphan, and goes in search of the tree that emitted the light from earlier. Whether it's from grief, hunger, or weakness, Ori has no strength to continue, and shockingly, dies. What the heck? They've already killed off their two main protagonists. What the heck's going on here, you may be thinking to yourself. Well, it wouldn't be that sad. Supposedly, the tree in the distance recognizes that Ori dies and revives him. Thus ends the game's prologue. Anyway, Ori gets a sudden rejuvenation of energy, wakes up, and begins to explore. As he starts to explore the decaying forest, he manages to find a light on the ground, which turns out to be a living being called Sane. Sane introduces herself, or itself, as a light of the spirit tree, and offers to accompany Ori on his journey. But before they can go anywhere, they are attacked by dark creatures. And thus you are thrown into the game's combat, in which Sane actually does the attacking for you, with a move called the Spirit Flame. After defeating the enemies, Sane suggests to Ori that they should go visit the spirit tree. So that's what you do. Not much in terms of narrative. Yeah, who knows, maybe it's going to get better. As it turns out, the spirit tree gave the last of its energy to Ori, and now lies dormant. During an event known as the Light Ceremony, the spirit tree emitted a great light throughout the forest in order to try to guide Ori back home, which happens to be the light that Ori sees in the prologue. All of the spirit creatures that are like Ori are there too. They wait and they wait, but nothing happens. However, something does happen, just not to what they are expecting. A large female owl named Kuro arrives on the scene and immediately scatters all of the creatures, apparently outraged by the light. Kuro flies to the spirit tree and grabs the orb, and proceeds to yank it out and fly off with it. When she's far enough away, she crushes it in her talons and a small light falls to the floor. This light happens to be Sane. Now, even though Ori found Sane, this creates a problem, for the spirit tree lies dormant. The spirit tree's role is to keep the land of Nibble, or Nibel, I don't know, in balance. With the spirit tree dormant, those elements are now out of control, and it's up to Ori, since he has the last portion of the spirit tree, to bring them back to normal. Ori has to visit 3 locations in order to bring back balance. He has to restore the element of water in the Ginzo tree, the element of winds in the Forlorn Ruins, and finally, the element of warmth inside the volcano Mount Horu. And then Ori is sent on his way. Literally, just like that. And if I could be honest for a moment, as much as I like traditional stories like this, I don't think it works well here.
And you know, that's the thing that frustrates me. After the intro to this game, the story just kind of gets tossed aside in order for the gameplay to get involved. And that's not a bad thing. The gameplay to this game is pretty nice from what I've played. But I think that if they had put more effort into the story, it might have kept me gripped longer. What I mean by that is the story itself is just sort of there in the beginning, and then it's something completely different after that. It doesn't have that same emotional pull that the intro had.
Let me try to put it this way. Pretend you're a child with an ice cream cone. You're just sitting there enjoying your ice cream until you suddenly drop it onto the sidewalk. Naturally, you start feeling very sad, and then you start to cry. A man walks by, sees you crying because you spilled your ice cream cone. The man then slaps you across the face, hands you a few dollars and said, "Just buy another ice cream cone, kid." And your only response is, "Okay." Granted, the prologue isn't an ice cream cone and Sane isn't a man slapping you across the face, but that is how you feel when you get to this part of the story. To me, it feels as if the prologue to this game was just sort of there to catch your attention, and when you're done crying, you're suddenly doing the main portion of the game and expected to do it without thinking too much on the prologue. And it's just a little bit distracting, and maybe a little bit jarring because you're suddenly thrust into this new world after a sad opening and expected to come out on top. I don't know. I don't have a problem with a traditional story like this, I just think that it's a little strange. Now, I don't like to cut corners, but at the risk of this video being too long, I'm going to cut the story portion a little bit short. I will explain what happens in the next few hours though. In the first area, you have to chase a creature called Gumo, which is a sort of spider-like creature, and restore the element of water to the Ginzo tree. Upon getting to the Ginzo tree, everything is rotten inside. When you get to the tree's heart, you restore it and it starts flowing water again. This also introduces you to the escape sequences, and may I just say, I am very mixed about these. There are 3 escape sequences in the game, 1 for each area, and they're fun, they're challenging, and it tests your skill as a player, and I like that, but they're just so frustrating. I mean, when I started doing them, there wasn't that much of a problem, they were supposed to be tricky, but over time, it sort of became like this. And don't even get me started on the other 2, especially the last escape sequence. Anyway, after restoring the Ginzo tree, Ori goes on to the Forlorn Ruins. In order to get inside, he has to go through the Misty Woods, which a lot of his kind have gotten lost in. And wouldn't you know it, he gets lost in it himself. But he escapes, because for the convenience of the plot. He reaches the Forlorn Ruins, which has to be some of my favorite puzzles in the entire game. Unfortunately, recording this game had a lot of issues. I lost a lot of footage and audio, and unfortunately, I lost this one specifically. Also the final escape sequence and the ending to the game, so I'll get to that one later. I am a bit disappointed though. And finally, in order for Ori to restore the element of warmth on top of Mount Horu, he needs an item called the Sunstone atop Sorrow Pass in order to resist the volcano's heat. And I have to say, this part of the game is probably one of the more challenging, but also one of the most fun. It plays with the wind current, so you have to time your jumps and glides right, which I will get into in the gameplay portion. And not to mention, its music is probably one of my favorite in the game, and just that payoff when you reach the top of Sorrow Pass, it's something that you don't see a lot in video games. Not to mention, it's definitely a nice change from the Misty Woods. Finally, Ori heads off into Mount Horu, after acquiring the Sunstone. And this is where I'm going to have to cut it short, because again, I lost the footage to the ending of the game, plus there's a spoiler prior to you going here that I'd rather not show because, to be honest, I don't really like it. I also don't like the escape sequence at the end of this, which I've already thought about. It's also the last part of the game, so therefore you go to the game's ending afterward. There's only one ending, thankfully, but it's probably the thing I dislike the most about Ori and the Blind Forest.
What's the word I'm looking for to describe this game's ending? I know it's on the tip of my tongue. What is it? Oh, I know! Cliché!
For reasons that I've already explained, I don't have the footage to show you the ending to this game. Now, despite how cliché I think it is, I think it's touching, I think it's, a nice ending to the game. I guess it's the best that I could have asked for, but at the same time I was wishing that there was more. The ending honestly came off as a little bit predictable and boring, and I think that's just going to be a bad thing in the end. Oh, and just to clarify, here's the Steam achievement I got for actually beating the game, just so you know I'm telling the truth. So anyway, despite its cliché ending, the story itself is rather mediocre. It starts off strong, but then sort of falls apart about early in the game. It's not terrible, but it's definitely not impressive. Now, let's move on to the gameplay. As stated earlier, Ori and the Blind Forest is designed to be like a throwback to Metroidvania titles. Meaning you'll be like this when you start playing the game.
Nothing too bad. I'm sure I can get this done in a few hours.
And then you'll slowly turn to this.
Oh my goodness, this is worse than Dark Souls.
Ori and the Blind Forest has a gameplay that's really reminiscent to what Moon Studios was drawing their inspiration from. It feels like a bundle of Rayman and Metroid with a little bit of Castlevania thrown in there. You have a wide variety of attacks and upgrades like in Metroid, you have very smooth controls and slight increase in difficulty like in Rayman, and that sense of wonder that you get in terms of exploring things like you do in Castlevania. One thing in particular that I like is the use of abilities, which you learn from things called ancestral trees. They are essentially spirit creatures like Ori that died after Kuro's attack. Ori can go up to them and learn their abilities by absorbing their light. And to be honest, a lot of the abilities aren't really original. They do feel like they were taken directly from Metroid. However, I don't necessarily think that's too much of a bad thing. I mean, they're fun to use. The only one I have complaints about is the wall climb and the wall jump, because I really don't believe there needed to be two types of wall climbing. That being said, I did enjoy the charge jump and the wall charge jump because they provided a lot of thrills that I hadn't felt since an early Metroid game. Plus, they're just really fun to use. But without a doubt, the two abilities that you will be using the most and have the most fun with will be the Bash and Kuro's Feather. Bash allows you to reflect off enemies or projectiles into the direction that you are facing, and Kuro's Feather essentially allows Ori to glide. Despite what I said about super wall jumping in Bash, I find Kuro's Feather to probably be the most enjoyable. There's just something so simple about it, and yet it works really well. Not to mention it gets a lot of use. Now, before I go on to the soundtrack, I want to talk briefly about this game's difficulty. I actually don't mind it. The difficulty is about the standard of most Metroidvania games. Very easy to understand and slightly difficult to master. The game doesn't hold your hand at any point in the game. It goes back to the time where the game respects you as a player and expects you to pull out on your own. The only way you're going to beat the game is with your own two hands and with your own mind. And personally, I think that's good. What also helps is that dying in this game is very quick. It can happen in an instant or over a long period of time, and honestly it's very frustrating when it happens. However, Ori and the Blind Forest avoids that by making deaths very quick and respawning really quick. As soon as you die, you can literally snap your fingers and you're back to your last save point, which in this game you get to create yourself. It's honestly a very nice feature, but you also have to watch out on Ori's energy bar, which is represented by the blue circles on the bottom of the screen. Each save point you create uses a blue circle. The blue crystals required to regenerate those blue circles aren't commonly found, so you'll have to think about when you're going to save and be careful from there on out. You could also avoid this problem by finding health and energy pickups, which are abundant in this game. I will warn you though that a lot of these collectibles will require all of the abilities in the game, so I would recommend getting all of those abilities first before you start exploring at a deeper level. I will also warn you that when you go into Mount Horu, you can't go back out, so make sure you do all your collecting before you go in there. Now, with that out of the way, let's go to the shortest portion of the reviews, the soundtrack. If Ori and the Blind Forest looked good visibly, then I can tell you for sure that the soundtrack really accommodates that. And really, they work well with not only the area, but with what you are doing. In calm areas, it sounds very peaceful. When you're exploring the misty woods, it sounds mysterious. When you go to Mount Horu, it's very deep and frightening. And overall, I think they do a very good job at accompanying the location that you're in. The point is, the soundtrack is great, and I might have to go and download some to put in future reviews.
Well, overall I had a very fun time playing through Ori and the Blind Forest, but at the end of the day, I just don't think it's worth a second playthrough. It's still a very fun ride if you go through it for the first time, but unless you're a collecting kind of person that wants to gather everything and get 100%, then this might not be for you otherwise. And I should probably point this out before I go review it. That 100% thing isn't for collecting everything, it's for just beating the story. So if you want to gather everything and find every location, don't do what I did and actually breeze through the endgame thinking that it was going to be something to do afterward, because after you beat the game, it just ends and you'd have to do it all over again just to have a second opportunity. But looks like he didn't give me a bad game after all. Certainly didn't damper this vacation. I suppose I should go quickly review it so I can go down to the beach. Maybe I'll visit the pool. Or swim with sea turtles. Whatever the case, let's go review the game. Oh, this is a big bed. That's all for me. Take that, Mario. So when it comes down to Ori and the Blind Forest, it is an absolute thrill to play through. It's actually probably one of the best indie games I've played. I shouldn't be throwing around the best indie game that I've ever played thing around all the time, but you know, despite playing Dust over a year ago, it's really opened my mind to how indie games are growing and developing, despite the bad ones, there's also a lot of good ones. And speaking of which, there was a lot of good things that I liked about Ori and the Blind Forest. I'll start by saying that the game has a very beautiful art style, and it definitely helps set the tone. Everything in this game looks so fluid, from Ori to the enemies you fight, even the nature around you looks alive. Another thing I like to point out is the game's orchestral soundtrack. It is very fitting. It's got everything you should really look for in a game that looks this good. It's got very calm songs for when there's a break in everything. And then it's got some very heart-racing tracks when something dangerous is happening around you. It really helps the player understand the tone of where they're at. Another thing I'm very glad they got right is the gameplay. It is very Metroidvania-like, and again, it's not trying to do anything original, but it's one of the cleanest and smoothest gameplay experiences I've ever played as a Metroidvania title. And the most of all, despite how irritated I was about dying over and over again, the respawns are like this. You could get right back into the action and learn what you did wrong. It kept the game's pace going, and I think that was a really good thing. And finally, as a very personal thing that I liked about it, I really did like the intro to the game. It is a very heartwarming and a very heart-wrenching. And I think that definitely helps wanting to bring the player to play the game more. Now, there's not a lot of bad things to say about Ori and the Blind Forest, but there are a few that keep it from being perfect. Let's start with the game's difficulty. If you've played Metroidvania titles before, this might not come off as a bad thing to you. You might actually have gotten used to the difficulty of those games. But for newcomers to a Metroidvania, they're going to wonder why the game is a bit tricky at times. This is counterbalanced by how quickly you respawn when you die and how you can save practically everywhere. But when you start playing it, you won't realize it at first, but you're going to die a lot. Probably into the 100 ranges. So that might throw off a lot of newer players. Secondly, this game has a rather weak story. You just go to one particular area, restore it, and progress to the next one. It felt a little too simple. Thirdly, there were a few times that the game froze. Now, I don't know if it was just my computer, or if it was the PC version of this game. I don't know if they all have that kind of problem, but it froze twice while I was playing through this. And that was a bit disappointing to me because I lost all the footage for the second portion of the game when you go through the forest and then you have those puzzles inside that one ice cave, and I really wanted to show those. If you keep saving your game, you could probably counterbalance that, but again, it might be just me. And finally, I thought the ending to Ori and the Blind Forest was very mediocre and very cliche. It really hurt. I wanted to say that the ending was decent, or it was heart-wrenching, like in the intro, but all the ending does is make the intro not really important. It makes the intro like it doesn't even belong in this game. Maybe they were rushed for time and they had to put in something so predictable, but I was extremely disappointed, especially what the game was leading up to. I thought there'd be something big, like a very important choice you had to make, but no. It's very scripted and very cliche. And I say cliche, but that doesn't mean it's the most terrible thing I've ever seen, but it's so generic, and I wish there was more to it. Now, because of the bad things I thought about it, I didn't think Ori and the Blind Forest was a perfect game, but at the same time, it's something different. It is something beautiful. It makes indie games look like they're going in the right direction. And for a game that's published by Microsoft, not made by them, but by a company they own, I have to wonder if this is a turning point for them. It's a very beautiful game, despite all the problems, and in the end, I think that's what the game really needs to be about. But again, do those little things keep this game from being better than it should? I'm gonna go with what my head tells me and say no, not entirely. That is why Ori and the Blind Forest gets a 9 out of 10. I've been giving that a lot now recently, and I think this game truly deserves that. It is practically a steal for the price it is right now. It's like $20. Seriously, go pick it up. Just don't go expecting a perfect game. It's very well done though, and you will have a great time playing it. So, now that everything is back to normal, here are the next 3 games for everybody to choose from. Should I review The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards, or Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness? 3 Nintendo-based titles because I haven't done enough of those as I should, and, well, Miyamoto would have my head. Not literally, but he'd be pretty upset. So, please vote on which one you want me to review and I will get right on it. Once again, I'm a Luigi, and this has been a Luigi review. Now, I still got the rest of my vacation to enjoy. Better get started on it.
Well, I don't like it.
But why? What makes it a problem?
Because it's stupid. There's no reason for it to not be there.
But that drags out all the adventure. Link can't learn to play anything.
Wait. You're meaning to tell me that Link has all of these songs that he can play in his ocarina, he can change the weather at will, and teleport himself anywhere whenever he wants to, and yet he doesn't know a single song that will allow him to travel back and forth through time?
Well, I get where you're coming from. I really do, but think about it. If Link had the ability to play that, all he would do is sit in one spot the entire time, and it wouldn't look right.
Well, I guess it would look pretty silly just standing still in a coma for 7 years.
Yeah, say, you know we passed the 3-hour mark 30 minutes ago, right?
I know. This is just too fun.
Very funny.
Yeah, it's different when you're talking with somebody while you play this. It's very relaxing.
So, does this make us friends now?
Well, I wouldn't say we're friends just yet, but we're getting there. I like you better than the last guy. I mean, I haven't shot you yet.
Right. I guess that's a start.
Yeah, we'll get there.
You do realize you got hit by that, right? Right? What are you looking at?
I don't know. That box was in here before. Luigi must not open this until the next Luigi's choice.
Strange. What do you think is in it?
I don't know.
I'm tempted to look inside of it, but Luigi would probably hurt me.
Well, I'm not Luigi, so I guess I could take a peek.
I don't know, man. Maybe we shouldn't.
What's the worst that could happen? It's probably just a video game. Oh my god!
Whoa, are you okay? Talk to me, man. What happened? What did you see?
Fate worse than death.